1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Is he filming? It'll be a long night.
אחד, שתיים, שלוש, ארבע, חמש, שש, שבע, שמונה, תשע, עשר. ואחד נית המעטר, ואחד מסיסר, סיסר, הזמן, הפס, עשר. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Check, 1, 2. Check 1 on the microphone, check.
Beginning to daven Myra because, as you know, under Jewish law, we're not allowed to begin until the new day begins. So I want to welcome all of you. First up, live from Yerushalayim, from Modim Moshav, where he grew up on Reb Shlomo's lap. Please give a warm Brooklyn welcome to Oneg Shammers.
Good evening, everyone. It's so great to be here. fire. Fire of the Holy Zohar, the fire of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And I want to bless us all to be on fire. Be on fire for Kadosh Baruch Hu, for God. Be on fire for each other, for our neighbors, for our friends, for all of Israel. I want to dedicate this song to a good friend of mine. His name was Ish Kodesh, Holy Fire, who was killed by Palestinians in August. Arabs. This song is called the Shana of Rabbi Yerushalayim, and I want to bless us all to be there, Yerushalayim, and Mashiach should come soon.
correct. tonight. You know what I mean?
every single religion has its own shtick, and there are certain things that you see from various beliefs and faiths across the world, and every one of them has their own kind of individuality. And I just want to tell you a little story about when I came to this country. I came from England, and they're a little backward there, so many of the things that go on in America I had never really been exposed to. And I remember one of my first ever trips on the subway. And I'm riding the subway, and of course it's crowded, and I'm standing up, and I'm holding onto the bars and everything. And opposite me, this is my first week in America, Opposite me is a kind of Irish-looking woman, and she has a big, not big, like a medium, like black smudge in the middle of her forehead. And I'm thinking, this is honest truth, and I'm thinking, you know, the subways in America are really filthy because you've got to really be careful where you put your hands. And the really embarrassing thing was that nobody was telling her that she had this dirty mark in the middle of her forehead. And I'm riding to work, and I felt embarrassed for the woman because no one said a word, and I couldn't go up to her and say anything. So I get off the train, and I'm walking down Fifth Avenue way off, and I see somebody else has a mark, this mark, and I'm thinking, these subways, nobody cleans them. And I keep seeing more and more people with these black marks on their foreheads, and I'm thinking, something's going on here, and no one's telling me, and no one's even saying a word about it. And I learned later what the whole story was, but I just think it was a funny experience. It's the real truth. Many years ago, in the town of Loblensk, in old Poland, there lived a young character, a young boy, yeshiva boy, whose name was Yaakov Paper. And Yaakov Paper conjured up in his mind a kind of mythical character that he used to have learned Mishnayos and Torah with. And this character, almost like a golem, was really very much like a dragon, like a kind of dragon we know today. And Yaakov and the dragon would live their lives, and he would have a dialogue with Yaakov and everything. And the funny thing was that Puff was the name of the dragon. That's the way it was. And the interesting thing about their relationship was that Puff really, really liked things that were milchik. And Yaakov Paper really loved things that were fleishik, and this caused a lot of problems. And this is a song that was written about their relationship. something which has been hilarious, of course, and now we're going to do something which is really downright depressing. And there's a couple of songs. One talks about what happens when we actually get older, and some of the changes that occur in our lives, the things we thought we could do before, and that we can't actually accomplish these days, like getting up out of a chair and things like that. call the Mark Knopfler of Yiddishkeit, the Pete Townsend of Kabbalah, the Jimi Hendrix of Halacha, Moshe Antelis on lead guitar. And on bass guitar tonight, this little guy over here who plays with a lot of the famous Jewish artists you've seen, like Piamenta, one of the regular bass players in the Jewish music scene, Ephraim Schwab. We're going to do two more songs. This is the last of the non-Jewish set, and then we'll end with a Jewish one. This one is called By Way of Sorrow, and I think it's really applicable to someone who's doing teshuvah, who's lived a life maybe not be to the fullest, and they suddenly find a world of joy and joyfulness. This is really a very beautiful song. Check this song out. with a song that really kind of questions the validity of the phrase that all Jews are created equal. And I really want to dispute this because, as far as I'm concerned, the Kohanim really have a real easy job of it. And you know, there's now a website where you can buy a Kohanimship. It's expensive. You got to pay it off over time. And if you want to buy a Levi ship, that's a little less expensive. And if you want to buy Yisrael, that's really dirt cheap. It costs almost nothing at all. And you can actually trade in your Kohen ship for something else. But if you want to trade in your Yisrael ship, then it's really just a charity trade. The top class of the Jewish people, and that's the Kohanim. I love some of the songs. They sing along with it. So if you have a chance on the way out, the tapes are upstairs. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Young Israel and Carlebach Hasidim. So you know, we're on our third year of existence, and tonight's concert will help pay for the rental of shul space for our davening. And you know, Reb Shlomo, no matter where he was, no matter what kind of concert he was doing, always said, you know, friends, there has to be Torah. Can't be just music, can't be just song. So tonight, Lad Bomer, we're bringing someone to talk to you, to explain the Yantif, who wrote the book. If you go into any Jewish bookstore and you look for a book on Omer, you will find Rabbi Simon Jacobson. And if you don't have it yet, you should go out and get it, because we're only at the 33rd day, and we have to get to 49. You know, most people don't realize that Pesach and Shavuos are connected by 49 little dots called spirit, and we count. And so to tell you about the story of the counting, please welcome, internationally known, the great author and speaker, Rabbi Simon Jacobson.
To speak to a Brooklyn audience, to be honest, and
we won't eat you.
Because there's so many tzaddikim in this community. I usually go places where the opposite of what we call tzaddikim. But how could I refuse a man with a shtreimel and a kapota? And particularly difficult it is to compete with music. But it reminds me of Vart, a saying from the Baal Tanya. He once said, now when you're asked a question and you don't have an answer, tell a story. And that doesn't work, sing a song. And I guess true communication is really about singing a song. And it's not an evasive way of dealing with questions. It means that language is sometimes inadequate, and a song, music, touches a place inside of us that's deeper than conventional words. So I don't want to take up a long time. I'll try to share some words that touch the song and music of our own souls. Because it says in the Kabbalah, in the Zohar, and I quote the Zohar specifically because today is the day of the Baal HaZohar, which is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar HaKodesh. It says in the Zohar that every human being, every one of us here, every one of you, has a particular hum, a musical sound that your neshama releases, that your soul emits, a certain sound, music, and it's unique to you. That means no two people have the same sound. And the difference, the real unique difference between us is that different music that each of us plays. The reason you don't hear the sound is because there's so many loud noises in our lives, the rush hours of our lives, so it drowns out the subtle music of our soul. The kol demama daka, the subtle and gentle voice of your soul. So what exactly is Lag BaOmer anyway? I grew up in a home that's traditional, a religious environment, and I really never knew what Lag BaOmer is. It's like this mystical day, suddenly middle of Sphira, music, weddings. You hear about Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, but it's our counterparts tonight in Eretz Yisrael, and it's important to mention that because we're all one and they need a special bracha, celebrating Miron. And this goes on historically. There have been some sforim that have been written about the power of Lag BaOmer, but it still alludes, it's not like another Yom Tov. So two things happen on this day, historically. One is that the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. There was a plague as a result of their machlekes and their divisiveness. And that plague ended on Lag BaOmer. So it's like a day of celebration. And the second thing that happened is that the Yortzeit, the Stalkus of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. And the Zohar says, that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, in the last day of his life, there's an entire section called the Idru Zuta, which means the small, different word meanings for Idru. Some say cave, some say the small testimony. Where Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is preparing for his passing. And he tells Rav Abba, who's a student, to write down what he's saying. And he reveals the deepest secrets of Torah that day. And then he says, I ask you at Sivu, he gave a mitzvah, he commanded them that you shall not grieve after I pass. You shall make this a simcha. You shall make this day a day of celebration. And interestingly, Lag BaOmer became accepted by all people. Misnagdim Achsidim, Litvish and non. Traditionally, this became, because of this request of the Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, who was of course a Tana, as a day of celebration. But why did he ask them to celebrate? Why is this day different than, for instance, other Yortzeit? Zayin Oder is the Yortzeit of the Moshe Rabbeinu. And for many, it's actually a day that they fast. And this affects us all because whether you're a completely frum Jew or not so frum, the question is what's going on? Well, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai plays a special role, which I think can be understood by another man that was very similar and also very mysterious, called the Holy Arizal, who lived around 500 years. I don't know if you know this, but the Arizal passed away at age 36. And basically he was on the scene in Sfas for around a year and a half. That's the only year and a half, and he had that impact that he had. But the interesting thing, he was in the right place at the right time, and the right person, because who he impacted were all the Gedolei Yisrael, essentially, of Klal Yisrael. Sfardim and Ashkenazim. The Beis Yosef, the Alshech. You're talking about the greatest people, and the interesting thing is with all the, so to speak, I would call machlekes, but all the different opinions among Jewish groups, the Arizal is universally accepted by everyone. So there's something to be learned from these type of great people, especially in our day and age. Is there any person that's accepted by everyone? And I don't know if there's a deeper curse or cancer that's plaguing us as the Jewish people as divisiveness, machlekes. So you talk about the achdus and the machlekes of the Talmidim, of the students of Rabbi Akiva, and you talk about Rashbi. There's something here that perhaps can teach us about our own lives today and how we should deal with our own personal lives, our communities, both in the context of Ahavas Yisrael, and more importantly, which obviously the Torah, the ultimate message of the Torah is to your own personal life. Unfortunately, the Gemara says, the Talmud says, which means a thief, before he goes out to steal, he davens to Hashem that he should succeed. There's such a scenario. Now, tell me, what does that mean exactly? God said, Hashem said in the Ten Commandments, you shouldn't steal. So he prays to Hashem that told him not to steal, he should succeed in stealing and defying Hashem. Gemara. So Chassidus explains, because Amunah, faith, is called makif. It's not pnimi, it's not internalized. You can believe and act exactly the opposite of what you believe. I don't know if there's a person in this room on earth that doesn't do that all the time. You're inspired one moment, next moment, even if you know you're doing something wrong, you still do it. And not necessarily because you're a hypocrite, it's because we live in a world where there's a dichotomy between what is true and what you do. And we all suffer from it. And especially, and I speak now, myself, as I said, growing up in a Torah-observant environment, for people like that, the challenge is even deeper if you think about it. Because you get so accustomed to rituals that you can start doing it mechanically and by rote. Every Shabbos, you're supposed to be elevated in a new way. But the fact is, you go into most Jewish homes, Shabbos is like almost mechanical. It's like exactly like last Shabbos. The same negudim, the same foods, and so on. There's some changes here and there. Mitzvah sanoshim ulamada, which means to do a mitzvah by rote mechanically, is considered an insult to God. Kol yeh yir beinecha chadashim, Rashi, the Talmud says, that a mitzvah has to be done with new vitality. So for someone who's frum, the challenge is a deeper one because you get into the mechanics of it. You have to renew the contract every minute. You have to say Modani every day and Shema several times a day, but you're never supposed to say it twice the same way. This requires cognizance, awareness, sensitivity. And if you think this doesn't have an effect on our children and on the world around us, it's a big mistake. I can personally testify. As I said, I've traveled quite extensively in the last few years. After my book was published, Torah Meaningful Life, I traveled to cities and places and environments where you do not find Jews that would walk into a room like this. And I spoke in bookstores, Barnes and Nobles. And there you meet people, as I said, won't walk into a synagogue, into a shul, any type. But a bookstore is non-threatening. And you ask many of them why, because they said last time they did walk in, either there was no soul, or they felt outside as an outsider. And they meet an observant Jew, and the observant Jew doesn't seem as though any special, more refined or more spiritual than someone that is a Buddhist, for instance. I have $12 I say for those that need that. And what is that called? That's called Chil Hashem, basically. Because if you meet a Jew that's supposed to be a Shem Torah mitzvahs, and he's obnoxious, a novel B'Reshus HaTorah, that's worse than someone that's not from. Because here he's a person supposed to represent. It says, V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha, the Sifri says, not only you're supposed to love God, but you're supposed to make God beloved in the eyes of everyone that sees you. How many secular people do you think that a more observant Jew is a more godly person and a more refined human being? Take this poll, tell me. They see it as another movement. So there's a responsibility even more than ever for us to internalize our Yiddishkeit. Emunah is a very passive state. Emunah is the foundation of it all. But you could be Emunah and you could be a thief that prays to God to succeed in your theft. And that's just a metaphor. It can be many different types of expressions. So we talked about divisiveness today and Lag BaOmer. I must say that the big chiddush of Rosh Shimon Bar Yochai and Arizal, and the reason they unified all segments of Jewish people, and they're very rare that did that, was because they united and integrated the entire Torah. The Zohar says that just like human beings have a neshama and a guf, a body and a soul, so too the Torah has a neshama and a guf, a body and a soul. Now think of a body without a soul or a soul without a body. A soul without a body doesn't exist on this earth, on this plane. A body without a soul is a corpse of Mal Islam. So what's the body of Torah and what's the soul of Torah? The body of Torah is called halacha. Nigla de Torah, the revealed part of Torah. It's called Talmud, Torah Shebal Peh, the revealed part of Torah Shebal Peh. What's Nishmasa Daraisa? There's the Sham of Torah. Pnimiyas HaTorah, the esoteric dimension, which was taught and given simultaneously. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, the same time in the Talmud, is the author of the Zohar. So this is some type of New Age Kabbalistic movement. It's the same time. And both were two halves of one whole. A body and a soul, God forbid they should appear as two parts. Then it wouldn't give life to a human being. They become one. Inside of you, the body and soul dwell, thrive as one. You can't distinguish and say, this part of my body is body and this part is soul. The soul imbues and infuses everything about you with the neshama. And the same thing with the neshama of Torah and the body of Torah. Halacha and Talmud teach you how to be a Jew. But it doesn't necessarily teach you why, or what it does to you, or how it nourishes your neshama. The neshama of Torah teaches you the neshama of Yiddishkeit. So, Al Pi Kabbalah Sale and Amunah and Nasib and Ishma, comes at a holiday, Sukkot. You take Dalet Minim. You take the lulav, the esrog. And halacha says what a lulav is, what esrog is, and how you choose it, and how you put them together, and you tie and bind them together, you make a bracha. But the question is why? Why these four minim, for instance? Why not an olive, a grape, a watermelon, and a potato? So it's true that you could say it's a chukah, that God just chose that. It doesn't have any super rational, but it's not illogical. Chukim doesn't mean that there isn't a reason. It means that we may not know the reason. Why these four? So you look at the Kabbalah in Zohar, it will tell you why these four, because these four minim have particular personalities that reflect different personalities within us, and they represent achdus of an Am Yisrael, and when you bind them together, that's the unity. Just as an example. Every mitzvah has a body and a soul. There's no way that you can find Yiddishkeit relevant. And personally satisfying and renewed with a vitality, with a chayis, with the levendigkeit and a passion if you don't have the neshama. The Shalom writes that davening without kavanah, praying without intention, is like a body without a soul. The Rav Shimon Bar Yochai united these two worlds. One man, one sage, one Tana, who was a master in both worlds. And the Arizal was the same. That's why they became icons and unique even among the Bnei Yisrael, because they were respected for knowing both sides of the picture. Now this doesn't mean other Tanoim did not know. This does not mean that other scholars were not aware, but there were those that embodied it and captured it. The message for us is a question about Avos. The Talmidei Rabbi Akiva were great men. How could they have gone to war with each other to the point that God had to strike them dead? These were the greatest people, Rabbi Akiva's students. And what did Rabbi Akiva say? Or maybe that's why he said it. How is it that they could have been at battle? So one of the main explanations given for this is precisely because they were great. They were so great that they couldn't tolerate someone else. Sometimes when you're mediocre, so you're passive. But when you're passionate about your beliefs, you can't tolerate another person's beliefs. So it was like a holy war. L'shem Shemayim. But like the Kotzker Rebbe says, Kol Mashchalekes Shei L'shem Shemayim, Sefer L'Iskayim. A machlekes, that's like a holy war, never ends. Because everybody thinks they have God on their side. So Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, what he teaches us is how do you achieve unity? The fact is, when you go to Eretz Yisrael, especially here as well, there is literally hatred between Jews. 50 years ago, all of us would be lying, God forbid, under the same circumstances, you know where. And today, not just there's no speaking to each other, what they call the Chilonim and the Charedim, ultra-Orthodox religious and the ultra-secular, there's literally hatred. Hatred. I asked one of my frum friends in Israel, I said to him, if every observant Jew, frum Jew in Eretz Yisrael would invite a non-observant Jew to your Shabbos table, the entire landscape would change. And he started laughing, he said, it will never happen. I said, why not? He said, because there's just so much distrust now, but at this point everybody it's like, there's no opening. Now what doesn't that make you cry? When you hear about what happened 50 years ago, as I said. God forbid the Nazis united Jews more than Jews can. And we know the power of Avdus. It says that the Anshe David, when David went to war with his enemies, his soldiers fell in battle because they were not Avdus, they were not unified, even though they represented the Hashem. And Anshe Avshal on the other side, even though they were against Hashem, because they were united, they remained alive. In other words, Hashem blessed unity, even the unity of enemies, of people that are wicked, has power. That's why Hashem had to confuse the Der Hamam, Der Hafloga. Why do you have to confuse them? Hashem created them, he could have stopped them from building the tower. Hashem said because they were Ba'avdus. And Hashem bound himself that when there's Barchenu Avinu Kolonu Ke'echad, when people come together, even for bad purposes, there's a certain blessing. So the only way, you have to confuse their languages to make them no longer united. So when we think about the problems that face, particularly in Eretz Yisrael today, as Jews we know, all problems start from within. They don't start from outside. If you believe in a God, it doesn't begin from outside. Many of us are complacent about it. What could you do? But it's not true. Everyone can do something. So the message of Lag BaOmer, any message, is what we're supposed to do about this. So what are we supposed to do? V'haftarecha kamecha is a mitzvah. Do you ever meet anyone that fulfilled this mitzvah? How could you expect, as the Mefarshim asked, to love someone like yourself? If it said v'haftarecha without kamecha, no. To love, so you extend some type of compassion, love to another person. But kamecha, like yourself, first of all, al pi halacha, legally, chayechet koydmin, it says, each of us is self-contained, and we come first. When you wake up in the morning, what do you feel? You feel yourself. You have to think about another person. Hashem created us in a way that we're self-contained, egocentric. And then we can become more selfless. So how is it expected of us? The Mizritcha Maggid asked the question in different words. He says, how could you command someone on an emotion? You can command someone to give tzedakah even if you're not in the mood of it, to keep Shabbos, to eat kosher. But v'ahavta, Hashem Elokecha, v'ahavta re'echa, is an emotion. If you don't feel, you don't feel. How could you command someone to feel? You can command that be kind to a person even if you don't feel. But how could you command a feeling? And he answers that the commandment, the mitzvah, is his bonus. What is that, 5 hours or 5 minutes? That when you concentrate on the virtues of another person, even if you don't like them, and you concentrate that they're Hashem's child, like you are, you will find in everybody some mile. Everyone has something to learn from. It may take work. There are people that you just don't like. That's the mitzvah. Not to start liking them, but to concentrate on something that's positive. Now, how do you do that? And we always hear that the Baal Shem Tov, founder of Chassidus, introduced Ahavas Yisrael. But Ahavas Yisrael is a mitzvah in the Torah. It's one of the Tayyag mitzvahs, Klal Gadol b'Torah. What did he introduce that was not known before? Well, he introduced nothing new. He introduced how do you come to Ahavas Yisrael. You know how you come? Only one way possible. And I suggest you all look into Tanya, chapter 32, Perek Lev, heart. And he asks a very, well, he doesn't ask the question, but he implies a very fundamental question. Hillel told the potential convert who came to him to teach him the entire Torah standing on one foot. That don't do unto others that which you don't want done to yourself. That's the entire Torah, and the rest is commentary. Question is, how can you say that? Half of Torah at least is Ben Adam L'Mokim. Kashrus, Tuma and Tara, the laws of the Beis HaMikdash, Tefillah. Anything between man and God doesn't seem to imply, what does that have to do with don't do unto others that which you don't want done unto yourself? And he says, Zui Kol HaTorah Kula. He doesn't say half of Torah. This is all of Torah. Second question. You find so many Jews that are completely dedicated to Torah, and they don't necessarily they don't necessarily have more Avos Yisrael. As I mentioned earlier, you can be a complete Shem of Torah and be obnoxious to other people. It's very rare, but it happens once in a while. So the Alter Rebbe, Tanya answers, and Tanya and doesn't ask the question, but he answers. He says, because the entire Torah is coming to accomplish one thing: Hagboras Hatsura al Hachemer, the dominance of spirit over matter. That though you feel that you're living in a physical, material world, you come to realize that the driving force of this world is Ruchnis, is Elokus, is godliness, and this material universe is just a vehicle, a channel, the tip of the iceberg. That's the Torah. We've thrown into a world, and the Torah gives us the tool to reconnect, to marry heaven and earth. Matan Torah was the marriage of heaven and earth. Vayered Hashem Har Sinai. That you can transform the physical universe into a mishkan for godliness. That's the entire Torah. What is ahava? How can you truly love another person? That's also Hagboras Hatsur Lachem. Each of you sits in your own particular seat. From the body perspective, two people cannot become one. If you want to give your space to somebody, you have to stand up. You want to share your food with someone, you have less food. You want to share money, you become poorer. That's Gashmis, physical. In Ruchnis, two people can be in different seats, but they can become one through Ahava. You can have two people sitting near each other, physically very close, and hate each other. And you can have two people who are thousands of miles apart, and they're like one. Because it's not about physical. Because Ahava is essentially Ruchnisdik. It's Neshamadik. So true Ahava is connecting to the Neshama. And that's why Hillel said that. Hillel said, even eating kashrus, even Ben Adam L'Mokim, even when you stand before God, it's not separate from what you do with other people. It's also teaching you to become a more able, a more spiritual, a more ruchnistic, godly person. And when you're a godly person, it will spill over in how you treat other people. And if it doesn't, there's something missing. Not in the Torah, in you, in us. So the fact that there are Jews that are Shemer Torah mitzvahs and they're missing the Carlebach of Torah means, yeah, they have the body of Yiddishkeit without the neshama of Yiddishkeit. And you know what that is. Lag Ba'omer, the message to each of us is that you can do something. This isn't just for the Rabbanim and for leaders. How you speak at home influences your children. How you speak in a community, what you talk about in shul about another Jew. And I'm not even talking about Lashon Hara now. Looking at the neshama of yourself teaches you to respect other people as well. A non-frum Jew today is generally in the category of a tinib shenishba bein ha'abim. Not malicious. Why were some of us blessed as children to be put into a home of Shemerei, of frum Jews, of frum parents, given a good chinuch, healthy family? And why are other children, God forbid, put into a home, born into a home, a dysfunctional, abusive family? A family that has no Yiddishkeit in their home. A family that did not give them a good chinuch. Who chose that? Who made that choice? It's not the child, it's not the parents, it's Hashem. So whatever the causes for assimilation in previous generations is one thing. But today, most Jews born, wherever you are, it's a gift if you're born in the right place. And it's not your choice when you're born in the other one. So you have to ask, why did Hashem put a holy neshama? And al pi halacha, any Jew in the world has to say neshama shenasata b'taherity in the morning. Reform, Orthodox, Conservative, Ultra-Orthodox, Chassid, Nisnagid, Litvish, or whoever, unaffiliated. There's no law that will paskin that a person is not supposed to say neshama shenasata b'taherity, which means that the soul that you gave me is pure. And even if you don't do tshuva. Why? Because the soul is never affected on the deepest level. This is what we need to think about ourselves, about other people in other communities, and particularly about people that are not like you, that are not like in your own community, in your own mold. Because besides the fact that we never judge someone unless we're in their shoes, in our generation, if you know more, you're responsible to share, not to criticize. If every frum home invited one not frum family to their Shabbos table, think of how the world would change. And Ahavas Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael is always the center of our success. Barchenu avinu kolonu ke'echad. Who's the kolonu? One community, one neighborhood. Which shul is exactly kolonu? Everyone. Klal Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, America, wherever it may be. And so, God forbid, we shouldn't have to be reminded, and we should never be reminded, as we were reminded 50 years ago, that we're one, no matter where we come from. So if anything that is an inspiration of Lag BaOmer is the day like today, is Rabbi was ma'achad, united the body and soul of Torah, and therefore united the body and soul of Jews. If we are bodies, we're separate. Physicality always divides, and Ruchnius, Neshama, always unites. That's klal. So if you're looking for Abdus, you have to look into the Neshama, not into the physical. This is also why, I want to conclude with the bracha that Lag BaOmer, traditionally you find that Rabbi and Tzaddikim, through the generations, even the Rabbi himself, were pointed akaris. God forbid a woman who was unable to have a child, Rabbi would perform miracles on this day. He'd give blessings and people were able to have children. And you find in the generations afterwards that Lag BaOmer especially was a Yom Gula for that. What's the connection? The connection is because Nakara is basically a person who's unable to bring a neshama down to this earth. You can't combine the neshama and guf. The Zohar says that neshamas are always born, but they don't always come down, and they're not always conceived and actually manifest themselves in this earth. Rashbi, who connected neshama and guf of Torah, had the power to connect neshama and guf and children. So I want to say, humble blessing to us all, that those that are literally akaris should have the bracha to be able to have children. Those that of us are spiritual akaris and need to bear children in other ways, fruit, talmidim elu, be'obonim elu talmidim, or ma'aseh mitzvahs which are compared to children, should be able to get rid of our blocks there on this day. And those of us that need a shidduch and find and get rid of that block in order to build a home and have a family, a healthy family, may Lag BaOmer be a great Yom Gula for that. And the schus of our Abdus, when we unite, your neshama and guf, and the neshamas of with other Jews, it sometimes opens up the channels of the neshama from above that opens up and gets rid of the blocks. So sometimes you have to look inside yourself. So we have a good Yom Tov, and schus of Rabbi, maybe have hopefully.
Friends, we have a lot more music to go. I hope you have the energy to listen. And right now I want to bring up someone who's very special to the Jewish community. You know, it's so important for us to have legislators and public officials whose values are the values that we share. And so I'd like you to join with me in the Carlebach Hasidim of Brooklyn in welcoming the next Brooklyn Borough President, City Councilman